So let's do the rest of the variables. So we're going to create getters for them. What I'm going to do is just copy paste my ready code and just go through it quickly. It's nothing different what we did with our city, but just we go through which every single variable here. For the date, just pay attention what the type is here. So you need to return this type. And before you do that, you just set, in case it's nil, you set the default value. In case of our date, it will be just returning the current date here. So the same goes for UV index, sunrise, sunset. When it's nil, we just return empty string because this is a type of string. Current temperature is double, we just return 0. In case if it's nil, otherwise we return the value, etc. until the end. I'm going to provide you this code, but I really encourage you to type this because every time you type, you get more experience and your finger learns how to write the code properly. Right, so this information is provided. So we have now our private variables and their public getters, which we can access in our view controller here. So for example, if I let's say let current weather is equals to, say, current weather, and if I want to access my current weather dot city, I can access the city, but pay attention, I cannot access my city, which is the underscore name, because this is a private value. But city I can access, which in its turn, if you control click and jump to the definition, in its turn it goes and access our private city. Right, so this is the reason we are doing this privately, because we don't want anyone to set these values of our variables apart from our function here, which is gonna be getting our weather and setting the information in our variables there. All right, now I'm going to comment out my print JSON here. We are going to have our weather on our browser here in case if we need any key to check out, because I need the space here to work. I have quite small screen here. So what we need is, once we receive our JSON, you can see all the three here, we need to access the values and we need to set our variables. So let's start from our city. So I will say self dot, and the reason we use self keyword is because whatever happens here happens in the background thread, because our alarm of fire has to get this URL, and then once it has the response, it just calls this. So for this reason, we need to use self keyword. We cannot just say underscore city here. So say underscore city, and this is going to equal, and we can access our JSON here. JSON, and since our JSON, you can see that our JSON has two things. It has the count and it has the data. The count we don't need, we need the data, so we access the data. Put square brackets here, and I will put the name here, data, and make sure you don't have typos. You can even copy and paste it here. So once we access our data, I can see, let's just go up. We can see we have a array here. All right, so this is our first item in our array, and there is only one object in our array because this is our current weather. You can see our array finishes here. So we need to access the first item of our array, and as you know, the Swift arrays are zero based. So once we access it, then we need to access the array, which is object 0. And once we access this, we have another dictionary here. So we have key value dictionary. So what I want to find from here is a city name. So this is the key. The key is city name because this is in our dictionary. So by accessing the city name, I will receive the value here. So if I copy this, put the square brackets here and pass my key, I will receive my city name, and all I need to do is say dot string value, and Swifty JSON will take the JSON file, access these keys, and return my string value there. So this way we have our city set. And let me just remove this and see what's the problem here. Cannot be used of type current weather. No. Okay, this is class function. I need to remove the class keyword from here because our city is a private variable here, and our class should be instantiated before we can access it. We had the class func here, so we could access it quickly in our view controller there, but now we need to remove it. All right, so the same way we are going to set all the other information. So we say self dot underscore date is equals, again, we access JSON, and let's see, we need to access our data. So whatever we access, the first thing we need to access our data. I need to close this, and also we need to access our first element in our array, and let's see how it's called, our data. This is our date, and the format here is Unix format, which is number of seconds passed since 1970, if I'm not mistaken. So we are going to take this and convert it into a proper date. So let's put the key here, and the key is TS for timestamp. Let's find it. Yeah, the key is TS. So put TS here, and this is gonna be double. But what we need to do is to convert this, because remember our date is a format of date, and we need a way to convert our this line of code, line of numbers here, into a date object. So we are going to write a function for this, which will take a Unix number and convert it into a date. So let's, for this, I'm going to create another file here. It's gonna be Swift file. I'm going to call this global helpers. Because the code here we are going to write, we will be accessing these helper functions throughout our project, so that's why I don't want to put them in a separate file. So we are going to write a func, and this is going to say current date from Unix, and we pass our Unix date, which is a double, and this is an optional. We may not have double there, and we're going to return a date, which is an optional, since our conversion may not be successful and we will not be able to return a date. So what we need to do in order to get a Unix number into a date object is say if Unix date, first we need to check if this is properly provided, because now it's an optional. We check if it's not equals to nil. So if we did receive a Unix date, because we will not receive this in our JSON, and this may be a nil, that's why we don't want to crash our application. We just make sure that we do have it. I'm going to say return, and we're going to create a date object, and we say time interval since 1970, and we're going to pass our time interval, which is our Unix date, number of seconds expired after that. If we have our Unix, we are going to convert it. Otherwise, I say else, I'm going to return just the current date. So our application will not crash. So we have this nice handy function. I can get back to my code and we can use this to get our date from our table here. So I'm going to cut this and I'm going to call my function. I need to command P just in case we didn't, the compiler doesn't recognize our new function. So I say current date from Unix, and we are going to pass our Unix date here, and in our case is the cut and paste part we already have. So this will return our city and our date here. Let's see why it's complaining. Use current. All right, it's just error on Xcode side. I just command P to build, and we have an error here because this we no longer can use, because now there is not a class function, but it's a standard function in our file here. That's why it gives us an error. So in our next lecture, we are going to go through the rest of our variables here and set their values from our JSON, so we can check our class if it works properly.